Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. So the topic for today's lecture is conflict. Conflict is here the conflict is between our thoughts, between two desires or two emotions, two choices, two options. So this is the internal conflict of the man. Morgan defines conflict as a mental state in which the individual is obsessed with two or more needs or feelings and he takes steps to deal with them. So, obsessed with means that he is all the time thinking about two or more needs or feelings and takes steps to deal with them. So, the next we will be doing about the types of the conflict. So, those types will show you that those needs, whether they are according to our liking or we dislike those needs, or there is confusion between one liked and one disliked need, fine. So when we are continuously thinking about the options that we have to make in our life, because we have multiple options available and we have to choose the one according to the situation, because in this way we are going to cope up with that particular conflict. So that is conflict resolution. So coming to the types of conflict, there are four main famous types of conflict: double approach conflict, double avoidance conflict, approach avoidance conflict, and multiple approach avoidance conflict. So the names of these types will be indicating to you that what these types of conflicts basically are. Just like first one is double approach conflict. Now this conflict is also known as approach or positive conflicts. Here the individual is facing two goals, two needs, two motives, and both of them have positive valence for the individual. The both goals or needs, they are desirable and they have positive value for the individual. An individual is attracted toward both of these motives or needs or wishes, and it becomes difficult for the individual to choose which one. So, for example, that a student wants to take admission and he has got admission in two most famous colleges of the city. So now he gets confused because both of the colleges are very well known, the faculty over there is very good, and both of these colleges, they are the desirable options for that particular student. Now it becomes very difficult for the student to choose for which particular college. So this is the double approach conflict. Here both of the options are desirable for the individual. When one option is desirable, one is undesirable, that becomes a bit easy. But when both of them are desirable, then it becomes very difficult to choose and select any one of them. So this is double approach conflict, which is also known as approach and positive conflict. Positive in the sense that we want to approach because they have positive value for the individual. Next type is double avoidance conflict. Just like the previous one, it is also known as negative avoidance conflict. Now here again, two options are available to the individual, but both of these options have negative valence for the individual. They have negative value for the individual. Both of these options are undesirable needs and motives of the individual. But individual is restricted to choose any one of these. So this is again very difficult, more difficult than the double approach conflict. Because in double approach conflict, the goals are desirable. Here, the options are completely undesirable. The same example, two colleges, but the two colleges, they are very far off. They are not at the near places, for example. So, in this way, both colleges become desirable for a student, but he has to choose any one college. Fine. So here the individual becomes very stressful, suffers more anxiety, because the options he has to choose, any one option the individual has to choose, again has negative valence, is undesirable for that particular individual. But he has to get rid of that particular anxiety and has to choose one in order to cope up with the conflict. So he keeps in mind the pros and cons, the good points and bad points of both the options, and then calculate and decide that which option to choose for. But this conflict makes the individual more frustrated. So conflict and frustration are very closely related, but conflict is the fight in the thoughts, in the decision that we have to make among the options, and frustration is basically how we behaviorally express that obsession, that thought confusion, that conflict. So when individual is facing double avoidance conflict, then he is more frustrated, because the destiny is undesirable in both cases. So individual is faced with two negative and undesirable motives and wants to get rid of them, but has to choose one. Has to choose. It is forced that he has to choose any one option. So that is why it becomes more difficult for the individual to choose any one of them. Now this is the third type of conflict, which is known as approach avoidance conflict. Now this conflict arises when both positive and negative factors come to be associated with the same motive. An individual keeps vacillating between choosing and rejecting. So here the individual has a motive, and that motive has positive value as well as negative value. Fine. You want to get admission in a college because that is very near to your home, that is well known college, but you come to know that that college has it does not have a good faculty. The faculty is not very, you can say, qualified, well qualified. So here you are you are confused with the two choices, with two feelings. One of your likeness for that particular college, and second is of dislikeness for that particular college due to any reason. Fine. Now here the individual faces ambivalence of feelings. Ambivalence of feelings means that individual experiences mixed feelings, mixed emotions, likeness and dislikeness for the same object. College is same, but it has pros, it has cons. Pros are that it is near, it is very well known, and cons are that it does not have very good faculty. So that becomes very difficult to for the individual what to do. But still it is not as much difficult as the double avoidance conflict, because in the previous type, which is double avoidance conflict, there is no desirable aspect for that particular goal or object. Here there is one aspect. So upon the basis of at least mixed feelings, we can choose anyone. And then the last option is multiple approach avoidance conflict. Now here we have multiple options available. We have multiple choices, and it happens in our daily life that we have multiple options in our life where we have ambivalence of feelings, we have mixed feelings, we want to obtain that goal, but there are certain limitations. So due to those limitations, we want to avoid it. So due to this, we sometimes go for one goal and reject other, and then go for other and reject the previous one, and it happens. So this multiple approach avoidance conflict happens. For example, a boy wants to marry and he has two proposals available. In the one proposal, the girl is educated, very handsome, but she belongs to a very rural area. Fine. Or the other girl is belongs to the urban area, but she is not very much educated, she is illiterate, and she is not very smart and handsome. So these are the things that we are facing constantly in our daily life, and we have to get rid of these conflicts by choosing among the best solution. So what do we do? How do we resolve the conflict? Conflict occurs in our domestic life. It occurs in our workplace setting. So how do we resolve it? That we write down the pros and cons of each and every option, and then we calculate. If it is the conflict of choices and options, then we calculate what are the pros of this particular goal and what are the pros of that particular goal. What are the cons of choosing this subject or this life partner? What are the cons of choosing that subject or that particular life partner? So in this way, we try to resolve the conflict. If conflict is not resolved, then we will feel very much frustrated, very much stressed, and we end up with the anxiety and depression. So it is very important to resolve the conflicts. So these were four main types of the conflicts: double approach, double avoidance, approach and avoidance conflict, and multiple approach avoidance conflicts. So here our third chapter, which is health psychology, is completed. Fine, where we have in detail studied stress, its causes, then what is mental health, Islamic perspective of mental health, what is adjustment, fine, and then the conflict. So these are very important topics with respect to your short question answers, long question answers. So inshallah, our next lecture will be will be the start of the fourth chapter, that is anxiety disorder. Okay, till then, Allah Hafiz.